One of the indicators is when you start to have trouble focusing. Your sleep is getting disruptive. The stuff that you could do easier, it's taking a lot more effort. And that's when you start to notice that performance coming down. And at a high level anxiety, we are really on fight or flight. We're in the emotional part of our brains. And at that point, you really feel paralyzed. And so we really want to work as hard as we can. And I think that's why mental health is crucial right now.
So if you go on that 2 to 3 mile walk and you stop maybe 5 or 6 times to add, let's say we do 10 push-ups, let's try that, 10 push-ups, 10 squats, and 10 step-ups on each side. If you stop 5 or 6 times along your walk, that is an amazing workout.
If you need more lumbar support, use a pillow behind your back. If your feet are dangling, prop your feet on a box or a footrest or something like that. And then as far as if you're going to go all in for an ergonomic chair, I can't really recommend a specific brand because I tend to it's not a one size fits all. I would have to know a lot more about this person, and I'd be happy to help you with that.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. I am coming to you from my living room, possibly to yours. My name is Edgar B. Herwick III. I am the host of WGBH's Curiosity Desk. Tonight, our theme is fitness in the era of COVID. We're going to be talking about mental and physical fitness and some tips and some insights from some experts about how you can stay mentally and physically fit during these extraordinary times that we are all living through. We've got speakers, experts, local experts with us tonight who are going to help us out and have some really good insights for us. So I just want to quickly introduce you to who we're going to have with us tonight. First up is Dr. Luana Marques. Dr. Luana is going to talk a little bit about mental health. She is a professor at Harvard in psychiatry, and she is also the president of the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. We've also got a physical fitness guru, Britt Vitello. Britt, thanks for being with us. She's going to give us, hopefully, some tips of how we can stay physically strong, stay really fit during these times when we can't get outside as much as we want and certainly can't get to the gym for now. And we're also going to welcome Dr. Nikki and David Weiner, who are going to explain to us why none of us think quite enough about ergonomics, at least most of us. Maybe there is some of us here who do think a lot about ergonomics, but I'm going to be willing to bet that they think even a little bit more about it than you do. And we're going to find out why it's important and how we can keep an eye on that as we endure these times at home a little bit more than we usually are. So we're going to jump right into things and welcome our first guest. As I said, Dr. Luana Marques, or Dr. Luana, as you like to go by. Is that right?
Yep, that sounds great, Edgar. Glad to be here today.
Dr. Luana, thank you so much for being with us. How are you doing? Let me just start off and ask you, how are you doing right now? Are you busy? Are you bored? Has your life changed dramatically? What's going on?
Yeah, I think like many of us, my life has changed dramatically. I am busier than ever. We're really trying to reach our communities and make sure that people know their mental health is not optional right now. It's essential. And so I've been extremely busy. I'm doing physically well and just adjusting like everybody else.
So, I imagine that you are talking with all kinds of people as this goes on. I'm sure you're talking with colleagues. You're probably talking with friends and family, talking with patients or, folks who are reaching out for help, talking with members of the media like myself. Are there themes that you are seeing develop? Are there things that you are hearing over and over again about things that people are dealing with that you're kind of going, okay, there's some trends here and I'm seeing the same thing over and over again or hearing the same thing over and over again?
Yeah, I certainly have heard a lot about the fatigue of being on all the time and the merging of personal life and work and the challenges that has brought. Also, people have talked a lot about anxiety and trying to understand, why am I feeling anxious right now? And is that normal? And so I've talked a lot to lots of different venues about sort of anxiety being normal and adaptive up to a point. Eventually it does become too much, but certainly people are trying to sort of cope with what's happening in their bodies. Why does it feel that way? Why are they hitting that wall?
So when we talk about anxiety for folks who are feeling anxious, you kind of touch on this idea that like to a point that's normal, right? Like, so some of it's kind of normal, and then maybe some of it starts to become something that's a little bit detrimental. Where the heck is that line? How do you know where that line is? You know, how do you manage this or even keep an eye on it?
Well, I wrote a whole book called Almost Anxious to really help us actually decide what that line is. So think about anxiety on a spectrum. At low level of anxiety or arousal, you really don't have performance either. It's like waking up in the morning and not having a cup of coffee. At peak anxiety, you also have peak performance. It's like finishing a run or feeling like in the zone. And then you start to notice that your brain starts to get slower. So one of the indicators is when you start to have trouble focusing. Your sleep is getting disruptive. The stuff that you could do easier, it's taking a lot more effort. And that's when you start to notice that performance coming down. And at a high level of anxiety, we are really on fight or flight. We're in the emotional part of our brains. And at that point, you really feel paralyzed. And so we really want to work as hard as we can. And I think that's why mental health is crucial right now, to stay in the zone the best we can, knowing that during the pandemic, we're going to come in and out of too much anxiety, but there's certainly skills to bring us back to the zone.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me that there's sort of broadly speaking, two categories here, right? There's folks who maybe have a familiarity with anxiety and are battling it sort of pre-COVID, and maybe, you know, kind of have some methods and some skills to deal with that, but all of a sudden, maybe this event has exacerbated it, right? But then there's this whole other broad category of folks who maybe have never been dealing with this before, right? They've never been in a situation where they've had this kind of level of anxiety, and they have none of those skills to deal with it. So maybe you could address for both categories, what are some practical things we might be thinking about or doing as we start to feel ourselves like moving in this spectrum of anxiety that you talk about?
So it's all about cooling off our brain. Doesn't matter where you are in that spectrum. We want to get our brain to activate the thinking part of our brain and to dim down a little bit the fight or flight part of our brain. And so the first one is really to unplug and to limit a little bit of our media consumption. It's really challenging though, because we are all sort of triggered by the uncertainty of this pandemic. So I've recommended to people that you really go back to listening and watching the news as much as you did pre-COVID-19. So if you watch the news twice a day, go back to twice a day. But unplugging is not going to be sufficient. You also likely have to anchor on something else. So doing a puzzle with your family, taking a walk, doing something that allows your brain to cool off a little bit. The second thing I'd suggest is that we really charge up. And I was really excited, Edgar, that you did this whole thing on fitness, because we know that fitness actually decreases depression, increases well-being, boosts our immune system. And so I think charging up your body is not optional right now, because also has impact on your mental health and your immune system. And that's the only thing we really have control over right now.
What about the idea of things that are making you anxious that maybe, you know, have a legitimate basis that you have less control over, right? So we're in this situation where I think most people are you know, legitimately worried about either getting sick or contracting this or passing it on or what have you. People are also trying to do things like stay physically fit by going outside and going for a walk, right? But you don't have control over how other people are behaving. If you have to go to the grocery store, if you see people not wearing masks, and like maybe that's keeping your level of anxiety spiking. It's out of your control. What do you like? How do we manage that?
It's really challenging because it's that uncertainty that triggers the brain to get anxious, right? I don't know if you're going to the grocery store. What's the odds that I'm going to get it? And nobody can answer that. And so it really, to me, is this sense of like facing reality and uncertainty. It doesn't mean we like reality, right? It is really challenging right now, but doing the best to control the things you actually can control. So you can control your behavior, right? You can wash your hands, you can wear a mask, you can social distance, but you can't control others. And I think it's hard for our brains to accept that, but there's no other way besides sort of facing that reality and staying with it. And here, that's where I think things like meditation and mindfulness is really helpful to practice getting your brain slower before it gets to too much.
Yeah, I'm going to kick it over to one of our questions from the Q&A. This is from Ian in Coventry, Rhode Island. Ian, thank you for tuning in and being with us. He wants to know, what do you foresee happening given all of the anxiety, depression, PTSD that will develop during this current plague, especially with the likelihood that most people are not going to be able to access professionals like yourself? Do you have some insight into what you think the sort of longer term effects are going to be on society as we grapple with the fallout from this?
Thank you so much, Ian. That's such an important question. I've been so worried about this that based on our research that we had here at Mass General pre-COVID-19, we actually launched the training institute to train paraprofessionals, so non-licensed professionals, on evidence-based, science-driven cognitive behavior strategies so that we could actually push out those skills as preventive before that wave gets too high. I agree with you. I think we're going to have a huge wave of mental health needs. And from our perspective, we need to flatten that curve as fast as possible. So we are deeply invested in training a wide group of professionals to really get ahead of this wave.
Gonna go over to Joe. Another question from the Q&A tab here from Joe. And this is a really good one because I know, a lot of people will tell you that one of the most important things you can do for your mental health, your mental fitness, is get good sleep. On the other side of that, right, like when you're dealing with a mental health crisis, one of the first things that becomes hard to do is sleep, especially if you're anxious, right? And I think, I've read all of this stuff about people having like crazy dreams right now and all of this stuff going on. So Joe is asking, is it common for sleep patterns to be disrupted during a time like this? And if so, what are some practical things we can do to get better sleep?
Thanks, Joe. It's absolutely common and expected, right? If we're talking about your body being activated and on fight or flight, then your brain's racing. That's what most of us feel like. You're going to bed and you feel a little plugged on, like you're plugged to the electricity. And so and you're right, sleep is crucial for your immune system, for your memory, for your life in general. So the things that I'd suggest is the best of your ability to really keep a sleep hygiene protocol. So going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time to the best of your ability. If you can't sleep for more than 20 minutes, get off of your bed and really make sure that you're doing something that slows your brain down. Use your bed really for only sleep and sex and nothing else. So really not associating the bed with anything else. And that should start to help. Other things that people use are things like chamomile tea or anything that calms you down, but you really want to keep the bed for sleep so that you can separate it.
So you've said so many times, slow your brain down. Give me some practical ways to slow my brain down. Like, talk to me like I'm a 10-year-old with a racing brain, and you're telling me you got to slow your brain down. How do you explain it to me?
So the idea, Edgar, is really to imagine that your brain, when it's racing, imagine that your thoughts are like clouds on the sky, and you're seeing those thoughts pass by, and you're trying to sort of observe it and not judge it. Sometimes that can be really hard. And so then you anchor on doing one thing really mindful. So one idea that all of us can try at home tonight, do some popcorn. And how do all of us eat popcorn? We just grab it and put it in our mouths, right? Take one little popcorn, smell it, close your eyes, eat it, taste it, use all your senses. That allows your brain to slow down, to really anchor in the present moment. And if you practice that often enough, your brain starts to cool off.
I actually love the fact that you are telling me I can improve my mental health by eating popcorn. Slowly, but like that, I am a very happy person right now. I got to be honest with you.
It actually works, and there's science behind it. I urge everybody to try it.
It's not a coincidence that the society, the association that you're the president of, is called Anxiety and Depression, right? These are two expressions sort of that are tied together, right? Maybe two sides of a coin is a way to look at it. So we've been talking a lot about the anxiety side of things, but what about for those of us who are really down right now? Maybe we're not as active as we've been. Maybe we're at home more. Maybe there's a stress level that is just bringing us down. What are some things we could be doing or should be doing right now to battle that?
Yeah, anxiety and depression really come together. And in many ways, we have an environment that's a bit of a petri dish for depression because lack of social support, lack of social contact, right? Isolation, stress related to the economy and the risk of the virus increase the likelihood of depression for sure. I think it's important to really try to practice staying ahead of it. The easiest answer is to charge up, as the physical activity can really help. Sleep also can be preventive, and making sure that you do have contact. We have studies that show that, for example, contact through Facebook can help decrease depression and anxiety as much sometimes as in person. It's not ideal, and it's an awful time for all of us, but really leaning in on social contact is one of the ways to prevent getting really depressed. Now, if you find yourself really feeling like, life is not worth living and you're really stuck, that's really time to call a hotline and ask for support. It's totally okay to not be okay right now. It's really tough times. What's really not okay is not to ask for help. We really are here for you. And the Anxiety and Depression Association of America is a great way to identify help and also get specific evidence-driven news and information that could help you.
All right, one more question. I'm going to kick it over to the Q&A tab again. This is from Sandy in Newton, and I think I really like this question. She asks, do you have any advice for parents or caretakers who are with kids right now who may be experiencing anxiety or depression?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sandy. I've been asked that question many times. And in fact, we have a webinar on Harvard Medical School that you can go to. There is one of my colleagues talking specific about techniques for parents. But the most important thing that I can say very briefly here is to really work on managing your own anxiety. Kids can sense your anxiety, and once parents are spinning, then you're going to see your kids acting out, and that's the perfect storm. So really using the techniques I mentioned today to manage your own anxiety is one way to really help your kids.
All right, Dr. Luana, thank you for the insight. Real quick, again, some practical places we can go if some of the stuff you've said I want to know more about. Give me a website, give me some Google search terms. What should I be looking for?
You can look at my website, drluana.com. It's coming live on Friday. You can also look at Harvard Medical School COVID page, and we have a series of webinars there. All
right, Dr. Luana, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're going to move on now to our next guest here on our Boston Talks virtual happy hour, and that is Britt Vitello. Britt is going to get us physically fit right now. Britt, thanks for being with us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Britt, I'm going to start off with the same question I asked Dr. Luana, which is just how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Pretty good. I've just tried to keep my life as normal as possible. And so just taking it day by day, finding ways to stay motivated for myself and my clients, just doing the best I can.
That's good. Britt, I gotta be honest with you. I think like a lot of people, I've been on a lot of Zoom calls and things like this in recent weeks. Normally I'm seeing some version of somebody's house or a virtual background, but I can't quite work out what I'm seeing behind you. Where are you? On the Death Star? Are you on the Death Star? Is that what you said?
So at a studio that I've been at for a while, Turnstile, we have 5 locations in Boston, and I'm at our South End studio because actually about 20 minutes ago I just got off a live class, and it's a nice little setup here, and I do some stuff at home, but I come here by myself, or with one other instructor, and it's safely, obviously, and we have the space, we have the good lighting. So this is actually on the stage where we put our spin bike as an instructor. And I'm looking out to, because we have rented out most of the bikes in here. I'm staring at 10 bikes and there's usually 55. So
yeah,
it's a little bit weird, but it's nice. It makes me feel good too, to be here.
So let's talk about what you've been up to. You sort of mentioned, like kind of online classes a few times. So you teach them, like, tell me about how they work and what you do and what kind of workouts they are.
Yeah, so I do it a couple different ways. Live streaming through Zoom, where people go to my website and they sign up for it and pay for it just as they would if they were coming into the studio, right? And so the Zoom link is sent to them, and all I have to do is show up and they come through the waiting room. And so those classes range from an upper body day with weights, a resistant band day. You don't have weights, so we do a towel class. And then through Instagram, I go live a couple times a week during that. I do a boxing class. I do a resistant band class. And then I also make YouTube videos, which are like my version of workout videos that's free. The live Instagram and the YouTube videos are free. So with the YouTube, it's great because if my schedule doesn't work for someone, they can go use those workouts whenever they want. And I think I've got about like 13 up there right now. So there's a bunch of different platforms that myself and instructors can use so that we are accessible and attainable to the Boston community or even outside the Boston area.
All right, I love it. I'm going to kick it over to the Q&A tab. We've got a lot of folks who are interested in physical fitness, so I'm going to throw some questions your way. This one comes from Deborah in Brockton. Deborah says, very fit 72-year-old here, and she wants to know about weights. The heaviest ones she has are 5-pounders. What can she do for exercises with just 5-pound weights?
Oh yeah, so I would definitely recommend high intensity interval training with those weights and then without those weights. Also, the 5 pounds, they might be a little bit heavy, but if you take your time with any sort of boxing drills, so you could look up my workouts or any sort of just basic boxing agility, and that would be a great arm workout for those 5-pound weights. If you're doing full body exercises, just up that tempo, like up the reps. So if you did squats, instead of thinking, okay, I'm gonna do 10 squats, shoot for like 10 to 25. And then combine that with, quick bursts of cardio, which doesn't need to be crazy cardio. And the 5-pound weights can do more damage than you think. Sometimes I feel like those are heavier. So Deborah, I would just say, just keep the reps fast and intense with minimal breaks, and definitely look up that boxing.
Very nice, very nice. I'm going to stay in the Q&A tab, and we've got Erin who is asking, and I like this one because I think that there are a lot of people in this position. So she's saying she's used to going to the gym and lifting weights, but she doesn't have any equipment at home. So for somebody who's an experienced gym goer, a weightlifter, whatever it is, somebody who's used to working out kind of in a place with stuff, what do you do at home with no stuff?
So again, that body weight training, when we turn it into the high intensity interval training, if you think like a Tabata series, and then you throw in a towel with that, so for instance, a resistant band, right? A resistant band is all about creating the resistance to make a workout tougher. If you have a towel, like a hand towel, and you pull that against you and you're holding it here and you're doing quick squats up and down for 30 seconds, then you're ditching that towel, you're doing push-ups. You do 4 rounds of that, then you move on. For me, that is harder than grabbing 2 20-pound weights, because it's putting in the work with that speed is what really, really gets you out of breath and your entire body feeling it. Myself and a ton of instructors are offering amazing towel and body weight classes. And I'm telling you, like, if you look those up throughout the Boston community, there's so many people doing it free or just at a very minimum price. And if anybody has questions about what exact sites to find those on, just let me know. But really good question, Erin.
So we threw a poll up there that was asking people about exercise, and it kind of came up and off my screen, but it looked to me like the big winner in terms of what people were saying they were doing for exercise right now is walking, right? So I wonder if you could address walking both from a, is there a, if I am, yeah, there it is. 80% of people say their most recent exercise was walking. So if so many people are walking, I sort of have 2 questions. One, is there sort of like I should be thinking about hitting to really get a benefit of a walk? Like, is there a big difference between, say, a 10-minute walk and a half-hour walk? And then the other question is there something I can be doing while walking that gives me just a little extra benefit, right? If I'm getting out there and walking, is there a way to sort of kick it up a notch that's pretty easy to do?
Absolutely. So the pace that you're walking at and the distance that you're walking at is all going to depend on what physical shape you're in, right? So if you want to get more out of the endurance aspect of it, then add on 10 more minutes and a little bit of a faster pace, which you can all track through a heart rate monitor or any symbol. I mean, there are apps for your iPhone where you can track your distance, right? What I would recommend, if you're comfortable walking, let's say you're comfortable walking the same 3 miles every day, right? Okay, you're in that comfort zone. To break out of that comfort zone, I used to do this all the time in high school. I used to find a street with telephone poles, and I used to run to one telephone pole, walk to the next, run to the next, walk to the next. Just adding those little bursts where your heart rate's coming up, that's going to take you out of that threshold and get you out of that comfort zone. So don't feel like you have to go, oh, I'm not running 3 or 4 miles, I must not be working. No, do your walks and then find some areas where you can just go for those little bursts of extra speed. And why not along the way? I mean, if you are not in a crowded spot, can't you stop and just bang out 20 squats, right? And then you run, bang out 20 squats and run. And you're getting outside, which is good if you're cooped up all inside all day with the kids or working. So definitely not going to knock walking at all.
All right. So another one that it looks like a lot of people are doing is biking. And we've got Jamie in the Q&A tab who is asking, how can a biker also work out their arms while they're riding on their bike?
Oh, yeah.
Got anything?
I wonder if she takes one in class. So if you don't have weights, the best thing you can do is push-ups and planks. Push-ups and planks. Anytime I train a bride or bride-to-be, the amount of push-ups and planks I make them do, it's a lot, but it's just the one thing that gets those arms so strong. And there's different variations, right? There's wide push-ups, there's narrow push-ups, and planks, high plank, low plank. I actually had 3 of my classes today do a plank where you push your palms in and you're on your elbows. So say if you're on a bike ride and you stop and you do, I don't know, 50 or 100 push-ups. You don't need to do it all at once, right? You can do 50 or 100 push-ups, break them up in 10 to 15 reps, then do some squats and then some planks, right? Nice and easy.
Britt, like, you're clearly a professional. You're like, you know, like when you're on a casual bike ride, you just stop and do 100 push-ups. Come on.
Yeah. So,
right. But as a mortal, can I ask a question though? As a mortal, is there let's say I'm pretty sure I can't do 100 push-ups, right? So let's say I am on a bike ride and all I can do is 10. Is it worth doing those 10 or not? Do I have to do 100 to get the?
Absolutely. So when I said 100, it's like, I was thinking of if you went on a long bike ride and you're like, I need to break this up somehow. You stopped 10 times and you broke out the 10 push-ups. You're like, my goal today is to do 100 push-ups. I always say to my clients, so you start off with 10, the next week I want you to do 12. The next week I want you to do 14. Yeah. Start with the fundamentals. If you can only add 1 rep on every week, you're adding 1 rep on. That means you're pushing yourself and getting stronger.
I like it. All right, we're going to go to the Q&A tab again. A little bit of a different topic from the practical stuff to equally practical, but a little bit of how we're going to deal with the future. So this is a question from Manny, who is in Somerville, and they're asking, when gyms open as part of the phased reopening, how can we be sure that they're safe? What new procedures should verify that gyms, they should have to verify that gyms are putting in place? Like, you know, you spend time in gyms, I'm sure you're talking with colleagues about this. How are you thinking about this and grappling with it? And how do you allay people's fears?
It's a tough question.
It's all right if you don't have the answer. I mean, that's.
No, I do. It's just, it's tough for me because, you know, I care about everybody's well-being in so many ways. And if someone's, you know, fearful of coming to the studio because, you know, that's an honest fear. And I think before any of us open and any of us come into this, there's so much work to be done, but the people that I work with are ready to do that work, and the community is ready to do that work. And we are not going to open unless it's safe for everybody, unless it's safe for the instructors, unless it's safe for the staff, and of course the clients. We're going to start off with really small classes. We're going to see if we have to put dividers between the bikes. We might only be able to run 3 or 4 classes a day, but you know what? If that's how it's going to be to build back this all, then that's okay. You know, I think everybody also just has to do their part and just come together and be supportive. Like, I'll be supportive of the clients, and I ask that the clients are supportive of their gyms and just patient with us all too. Because we want to be open more than anything.
Excellent. Wow. So just we've got a poll up, and we asked how many push-ups people can do. And our most common answer was 20. Second most common was 40. So, you know, Britt, only 3% believe they can do 100 plus. So how do you?
Come hang out with me. I'll get you.
I love it. I love it. Is it the same thing doing, like, let's say, you know, I say I can't do 100 push-ups. I certainly could not stand there and do 100 push-ups. But if I did 5 every couple of minutes, you know, over the course of the day, maybe I get 100. Is that do I get the same benefit either way? Is it still 100 push-ups?
People are mad about this, huh? Yeah. Yeah. I also see one where someone says squats are canceled. You don't have to do squats. You can do lunges. You can do a wall sit. There's a lot of other things. As someone who has a torn MCL, if I can still do this, I think we can still do this. Yeah. So the 100 push-ups, I guess I'm in over my head with that. No, I'm not going to make someone do, but bursts of doing push-ups where the amount of people, and I've been doing this for a while, that said, that will come up to me because I'm such a believer in push-ups and planks. And they'll literally say, Britt, I did 30 push-ups without stopping the other day. Like, and that makes me so proud because I know so many people, clients that are like, I started out doing 2 with Britt and I used to think she was crazy. And then, you know, it's like anything you do, right? There's things I want to get better at. It's not going to come overnight. You just got to work at it.
Yeah. We got a question from Suzanne in the Q&A. Suzanne's in Newton. She said she's been going for daily walks 2 to 3 miles and would like to add a little more. What should she do? And she notes she's in her late 60s. So I don't know if the answer is different for age range.
And so repeat that.
Do a little more. So she's been doing 2 to 3 mile walks. She wants to do a little more. What can you do on a walk? I mean, you talked about some of it, maybe talk a little bit more. What can I do on a walk to give it a little more? So
yeah, so I was talking about the taking the telephone poles as you know, kind of making those intervals. You know, I remember we used to go to the track and you do like short bursts of just a little bit more speed. I think that's a great way to do it, right? That goes by fast. Or pick a song, and during that song, when a chorus drops, that's when you're going to pick up your pace. Or the chorus drops, that's when you're going to break into squats. And like I said, if you're not in a busy area where you're able to stop and do those squats, go for it. Park bench. You can do step ups on that. You can plant 1 foot up on that bench, draw that knee up. And you could add, so if you go on that 2 to 3 mile walk and you stop maybe 5 or 6 times to add, let's call it, let's say we do 10 push-ups, let's try that, 10 push-ups, 10 squats, and 10 step ups on each side. If you stop 5 or 6 times along your walk, that is an amazing workout. And you've taken care of it all in what, you know what I mean? Like you've done your cardio, you've done your strength training. You don't need to go find something else to do. So that's, I'm sorry, I forgot her name. I would,
that's okay.
Someone's asking me about a towel.
I think it sounds like there's at least some portion of the audience who wants you to get a towel and show them how to do a towel workout, but I don't know that you're set up for that right now. So no sweat.
Yeah. I mean, I can do it if you want. I don't mind.
A towel right there. If you can demonstrate, we're game.
Okay. So easy, right? Let's see. Just push this back a little bit. Yeah, towel right there. All right. So ready? If you hold the towel like this, you're not doing anything, right? You hold the towel like this. I always say shoulder width. Right now I'm pulling this towel as tight as I can. Like I basically want to rip it in half. So if I hold the towel like this and I'm squatting up and down, already I feel my shoulders working. I feel my glutes working. Now, the person that said that they don't like squats in their back. Look, right here. Here's my wall sit. I can pull up, in, so many fun things to do, right?
Excellent. Excellent. I want to applaud you. I'm hoping people are like applauding you at home. Well done. And that's a little,
come on.
Yeah. And that's a little taste of what we might get in your online classes. So remind us if I liked what you said today and I want to find out more about your classes, how do I find out? Where do I go?
So best, I would say my Instagram profile is like the gateway to all of my announcements.
Okay.
So Britt Vitello, B-R-I-T-T, V as in Victor, I-T-E-L-L-O. If you look me up on Instagram, I'm public. You can send me messages. I don't really sleep. So I mean, you can send me anything you want, any concerns, any questions that we didn't get covered. And also if my workouts are, if they were a little bit too intense for you, you're looking, I saw something about meditation and yoga. I know a ton of people that are experts in those, those type of workouts. So if there's anything I can do to help any sort of wellness and exercise, even if it's not taking my class, reach out to me. So that's it.
All right, Britt Vitello, thank you for being with us on our virtual Boston Talks. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Something you could be thinking about, since you are in such good shape, is your situation vis-a-vis ergonomics. And we've got our final guests for the evening who are going to talk to us a little bit about that. Dr. Nikki and David Weiner. They are the co-founders of The Rising Workplace. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Edgar.
You're welcome.
So before we get into what you do, just how are you two doing? How are things? Safe at home, all of that stuff? How are we feeling?
Yeah.
We've been doing pretty good. I've been doing a lot of virtual work, virtual assessments, consulting, webinars. I think there was a couple of weeks of silence there, and then people started to get a little uncomfortable and reach out. And so we've been doing the virtual thing.
Yeah, I think just the work from home situation has taken a lot of people by surprise, and not just employees, but employers too. So
yeah.
We've been getting some increase on that.
So tell us about The Rising Workplace. What is it?
Yeah, so we provide ergonomic services. We also provide workplace mental health services, and kind of a smaller subset of environmental health and safety services, which include respirator fittings as well. But we really, on the ergonomic side, and Nikki's the expert on this, but our goal is to, no matter the work environment or the job tasks, is to increase the comfort and fit of the workstation and the environment to people's job demands. You want to build on that?
I think if you were to really generalize what we do with The Rising Workplace, it really encompasses all aspects of physical health at work and mental health at work.
I gotcha. So ergonomics, I think it's one of these terms that people hear. Like, I think a lot of people kind of vaguely know what it is, but like maybe don't really quite, like, if somebody asked me what's ergonomics, I think I'd give them a basic answer. And then if they pressed me on it, I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. So like, what exactly are ergonomics? Like, what are we talking about when we talk about ergonomics?
Sure. So ergonomics to me has everything to do with a person's interaction with their work and their work environment. The key word there being interaction. So any of those things in isolation, the person, the environment, or the work or the tool, for example, the keyboard that you're using, none of those alone can be ergonomic. It's all about the fit between those particular things. And when that is a good fit, when you're well matched to your work and your environment, then you're reducing your chance for injury, you're more comfortable, and you are more productive when you work.
That's a good answer. I like it. So I'm going to kick it over to the Q&A tab a little bit. We've got some questions popping up here from folks who are interested in this topic. So we've got Sherry who asks an ergonomics question. She says, he says, my home office setup is not ideal. My chair and monitor both adjust, but I can't quite seem to get it right. Can you make some suggestions about what could I do? Or also, could you suggest a reasonably priced chair that provides decent support?
Okay. So the basic setup to work in what we call neutral posture, this is so basically that your body circulatory system operates the way it should, nourishing our body and removing metabolites and waste, reducing injury. The way that we do this is when we're sitting, we want to have feet on the floor, our back supported, our arms relaxed at our sides while we're typing and keying, so not reaching up like this. And then our heads not looking down or up, and laptop use can be really problematic with that, or side to side for that matter. So for seating, you can come up with a couple of different creative options, especially if you can already adjust the monitor and the keyboard and that kind of thing. If you need more lumbar support, use a pillow behind your back. If your feet are dangling, prop your feet on a box or a footrest or something like that. And then as far as if you're going to go all in for an ergonomic chair, I can't really recommend a specific brand because I tend to it's not a one size fits all. I would have to know a lot more about this person, and I'd be happy to help you with that. But I would say if you're looking to invest, the minimum price you're going to be looking at is probably $350, $400 to get a high quality and adjustable chair. And it's going to go all the way up to the $1,400 range, probably. The adjustable features you're going to want to look for would be adjustable in height. The chair should have some amount of lumbar support that adjusts, armrest adjustability, seat pan adjustability, and the ability to tilt back and have some tension in the chair. So those are kind of the specifications if you're looking for a good chair. And then the rest depends on your body type and your personal preferences as well.
Excellent. Staying over in the Q&A tab, we've got a question from Sharon who asks, what is the ideal ratio of time spent sitting versus time spent standing while working? Does it make a difference if you have good posture while you're sitting?
Posture always makes a difference because, again, it comes back to that idea of the nutrient pathway and our body's circulatory system operating in a way that reduces our risk of injury. And there has been a lot of research out there on the amount that we should be sitting and standing during the day, but I want to also caution you to say that's not going to be everyone. You know, we've got people that can do 100 push-ups, and then we've got people that might have lower back pain and they don't tolerate standing during the day. So just know you don't have to stand if you move enough. And sit to stand desks, they're really trendy right now. They're not for everyone. They're good because they can be a catalyst for more movement during the day, and that's really the key here. Meaning the best position really isn't sitting or standing, it's the next position. It's the idea that you can change positions. So what like Cornell University came out with recently was basically in an 8-hour workday, what's ideal would be about 2 hours of standing to 5 hours of sitting, and then what they call 16 sit to stand transitions. So basically getting up every 30 minutes. Not, you know, going sitting, standing every 30 minutes, but just doing some quick change of position intermittently throughout the day.
What are there, you know, Nikki and David, are there some like sort of common mistakes that people, you know, tend to make in whether they're working in an office or now, you know, now so many people working from home? Are there like some sort of typical watch out? So many people do these things and you shouldn't be doing them. They're kind of like, they could be problematic. Like, are there a few of those that we should be watching out for?
Yeah, Nikki.
Answer.
Yeah, Nikki calls them ergo feds, which I think is a great name for them. But yeah,
it's like trying to give into the product, thinking that, oh, I've got, my wrist is bothering me, I must need an ergonomic keyboard. And that really might not have anything to do with the reason why your wrist is hurting you. So just being cautious and not trying to think that those tools or products are going to solve your discomfort. Just knowing it comes back to that idea of interaction. So if it's not a good fit for you, it could really exacerbate what your problem is. And you know, one example is those ball chairs that are really trendy, and they might be good for like 20 minutes of work, but they're not height adjustable. So what they end up, you know, users will then be reaching up to access their keyboards because they're sitting too low, and that's going to probably cause more damage than the alternative. So, and then the other two things that I'm seeing, like working from home specifically, the two problems I think that I'm seeing is that, you know, people that are working from kitchen table and chair, you're probably sitting in a chair that's kind of low. So again, it's that reaching up problem. So seeing that upper back pain there, and then laptop use. So laptop use is really not good for more than about an hour because of neck position. And so that's the solution there, is just to simply use an external mouse and keyboard when you're using your laptop at home for prolonged periods, and just stack the laptop up on a stack of books.
Oh, that's a really good suggestion. How about like from a practical standpoint, is there like a, you know, I'm fascinated by the fact that you sort of just said like, yeah, like an hour, you probably shouldn't be on a laptop straight for more than an hour. Like, okay. So if I don't have sort of another option, and you know, that's my work thing, how long do I have to sort of stand up and walk away to reset that hour? You know what I mean? If I work for an hour, do I have to go make a cup of tea and be away for 10 minutes before I can come back? Or like, you know, what's kind of the balance there?
Okay. So the answer is not long. It's just that you have to do it frequently. So there's two different kinds of breaks. There's the, you know, the every 30-minute break, and that involves just you getting up and getting a glass of water, letting the dog out, whatever you can naturally embed into your routine. Taking a phone call, that's a great opportunity to stand up. You're watching a video, you don't have to be sitting on the laptop down. You know, you could stand at the kitchen counter to do that. And then the other piece there is what we call micro breaks. So, you know, those moments, those seconds that you don't need to have your hand on the mouse or your hand up on the keyboard, relax your hands at your side. Or, you know, if you're not looking at the screen at that very moment, do the opposite motion. So bring your neck and your shoulders back to kind of put yourself in the opposite posture that you're in that was causing you difficulty or pain with the laptop. So it's all about, you know, those micro breaks are all about those little 10-second alternate posture breaks, and you don't have to get up for them at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. That's great. That's great. You know, I think, you know, obviously there may be some early warning signs, but it's pretty clear when, you know, whatever, the way you've been sitting or something is bothering you physically. But how do you know when this stuff is starting to weigh on your mental health? Is it, you know, like, does it, can it, and how do you know?
Yeah. I mean, when you're not, so yes, the research says practicing good ergonomics reduces injury, aches, and pains, but it also has psychosocial benefits, because if you think about it, if you're not feeling good at the end of your workday and you go home, it doesn't necessarily go away. There's huge spillover into your overall quality of life. Let's go back to the example of your wrist hurting. You go home and you're cooking your dinner and chopping your vegetables and your wrist hurts again, and then you're sleeping and then all of a sudden your wrist hurts. And so it really affects our whole life. And I think it's kind of obvious to say that when you're not feeling good physically, your mood's going to be bad, your fatigue level is going to be low, and you're not going to be able to engage in activities that are really important to you.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the average person spends almost a third of their life at work, and often we think about our work lives being somehow siloed from our personal lives, and it's just not the case. You know, if we have a bad day at work, whether it's physically or emotionally, it trickles very easily into our personal life, and especially now with the work from home situation, where our personal life and our work life are completely intertwined.
Yeah. It looks like we've got some folks who want to know about blue light glasses, I guess, with so many people being on screens so often. For those of us who don't know what those are, explain what they are, and do we have a take on them, generally speaking?
Yeah, so there's there's been some research out there about the negativity of blue light exposure on our alertness levels, our mood, and we get a lot of exposure through screens. But it's important to know that the greatest source of blue light is the sun. So it's really less about the amount of exposure, it's the timing of the exposure. So like right now the sun is going down, we should probably have our blue light filters on or blue light glasses on, because that's when it's going to impact our circadian rhythm and our sleep, because now our body's saying like, oh wait, it's daytime, that kind of thing. So it's something to be really aware of, turning on those blue light filters and the blue light glasses after hours. If you work in a, say in design or something like that, and you really need to see color really vividly on your screen, you probably wouldn't want to use the blue light filter, because that might impact the way that you visualize things on your screen. So yes, I think they're good, but it's something to be especially aware of during the evening hours and night hours.
And I would just add that most electronics, most devices with screens these days have those blue light filters integrated into them. So it's worth exploring the settings on your phones, on your computer screens, even on televisions. A lot of times that option is already in the device to limit the blue light. And
I'll give one more tip on eye strain, because that's another blue light filter aside. Just the strain of looking at the computer screen all day. I don't know, probably a lot of us feel like our eyes are getting dry, we have eye redness from screen fatigue, and the best way to combat that is kind of like the ergo break, but an eye break. So it's a 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes of continuous screen work, look away at something 20 feet away for 20 seconds. And that kind of just lets your eyes accommodate to something different. And the alternative to that is, instead of even looking at something 20 feet away, just closing your eyes for 20 seconds every 20 minutes.
That's great practical advice right there. Okay, so if I've been listening to you and all of a sudden I'm like, geez, there's all this stuff that I'm dealing with that I haven't even been thinking about, and I want to know more, I'm interested in learning more, whether it's about what you do or this topic in general, where do I go? Where can I learn more?
You can learn more at our website, therisingworkplace.com. And we have, right now I have a 20-minute work from home webinar on YouTube that's just really puts out the basics there and helps people come up with creative solutions, like low cost solutions. If you're not planning to buy a brand new office setup, just objects you can use around the house and just healthy all around practices for working from home. So I check out that webinar. Also, Cornell University puts a lot of the research related to ergonomics, and the Back School of Atlanta, they're another good resource. They've got some free webinars and educational resources there. And YouTube just all around, like for the person who asked about chairs, start doing some research on chair specifications, and then I guarantee there's a video on YouTube that has a review and a video on how to adjust it. There's just endless things out there related to ergonomics on YouTube. Some good stuff.
Dr. Nikki and David Weiner, thank you so much for being with us for our virtual Boston Talks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mom.
And thank you, all of you out there, for sticking with us tonight for our second virtual Boston Talks. Don't click away just yet. I'm going to welcome my colleague Alicia back with that important brief message one more time.
That's right. I am just soaking in all this great information from a fabulous event that is as entertaining as it is useful. And that's something that WGBH does very uniquely, and it is absolutely worth your support. So if you've had a great time with this event, if you're looking forward to more of these during this strange time that we're living in and picking up on some of these useful tips, then take a moment after the event. We're almost over. WGBH.org/support events. It's absolutely worth your time, and really these things only happen with your support. So thank you so much for being with us. I've got so many things to do on my list. I'm sure you do too. Edgar, back to you.
All right. Well, thank you again to all of my speakers tonight, and a huge thank you to the folks who helped put this together, the team that makes this possible, and also you for hanging with me here in my living room and hanging with us for our virtual Boston Talks. Make that contribution if you can, and really, most importantly, stay safe, especially as the state begins to open up. Don't forget to stay vigilant, wash those hands, wear those masks, keep you and yours safe, and be good out there. Thanks for being with us. We're going to be back, by the way. Next month, we're going to have another one of these, so keep your eyes open for that. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III, signing off. Have a good night.